Thanks, Mansi, for introducing the esteemed panelist. And we have, yeah, welcome the audience. And I'm pleased and I'm elated to be here. I'm honored to host this, moderate this panel. We have the architect of technology, the upcoming technologies, the future technologies, the designer of the future technologies, the person who is Mr. Shailendra from Avid, and we have Vijay from the creative part of it. So as a creator, we would get the idea of the session is what is generative AI and what is its impact on the media industry. And we would get the perspectives from a technology point of view, what would be the technology trends and how it's going to shape up, and a brief on the pros and cons of it. Definitely the advantages are many ways. And from the creative perspective, we'll say Vijay actually, who will understand from a creative point of view and what are the advantages that he sees in the technology and what he expects. And we have Mr. Muralidhar. Of course, he's been into AI ML for quite a long time. And now with the generative AI, while AI is one part where media content was to be repurposing of media content, better use and efficiently using it, AI was very important to enrich the content that we had. So he's been into it. Now, how the enriched content can be searched. So today we need to have diversified way of presenting things and how the media can be presented to the end consumer. So for that, we want something to look into the enriched metadata also and suggest something. So they can suggest and they can create something while the creator's perspective can be varied actually. And Mr. Anant, of course, he is known and he is a person who's, they are innovative always with technologies. And as a running a big post facility and a studio, he'll be a person giving a different perspective from his point of view, what it brings in and what advantages he sees for the media industry. Thanks to panelists, I'm honored to moderate this panel. Mr. Shailendra, I would just ask you to introduce about the generative AI and a brief about the generative AI and what it impacts in the media industry in a nutshell.
Sure. Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming today. So Avid Technology develops products for creative editorial, whether it's audio or video post, asset management, but also music creation. So this is all about content creation, people creating content, the human perspective on content. So now with generative AI, basically, what is generative AI? People ask a lot of questions because sometimes people confuse what's regular AI versus generative AI. And without getting into technical details, I just tell them, look, if it's generating content, any type of content, it's generative AI. So in our space, whether it's generating videos, generating speech to text, which is probably the number one thing, generating music. We even ship some products for people who are composing music for it to recommend scores and chords. These are all examples of generative AI. And in my personal favorite is when it generates code. Not because I'm just a coder, but you'll see, I'll talk a little bit about one way that we're actually using that to generate code and drive applications, which is, I think, going to change this industry. So that's my introduction to what we're doing with generative AI.
Yeah, so while the generative AI is meant to increase the efficiency, improve the efficiency overall, and the experience of the user as well, so Shailendra is assuring that the technology is one part of it. Of course, the human intervention is always there. The decision is again final by the end user or the creator. So from the creator point of view, Vijay, so what is your take on the generative AI? And we heard the pros and cons. They have been, because too new, a vast subject, and it's coming up, and there are different reactions coming up from the media industry, and there are assumptions, many assumptions that are coming up. And what you see as generative AI being productive to the industry?
I think one thing to understand, especially in the field of post-production, is there's a large part of post-production which is extremely time-consuming, and that's what we refer to as grunt work, right? In Mumbai, we call it Gada Mazduri Ka Kaam. And a bulk of the Indian visual effects and post-production industry actually thrives on being able to do that grunt work because we throw a lot of people at it at a very low cost. What that also does is actually is not, it doesn't translate into being a very good use of time because constantly the post-production industry is evolving, and the demands when it comes to content creation is that we be able to turn things around at quality but at a faster speed. Anant knows this better than anybody because I'm the guy who keeps harassing his team to deliver my stuff faster. so, but essentially, how do we cut down that grunt work so that we can give time back to the creative process? For me, working in post-production management, one of the biggest challenges is that we spend all our post-production, all the time that we have when we're making a feature film or a series, all the time that we have for post-production, we spend it on either fixing mistakes or we spend it on doing essentially grunt work, right? And we never have enough time to focus on creative. But what if we could give more time to that creative process and let AI take on some of that grunt work? And for me, that's the big impact that generative AI can have on the industry.
Vijay, as a creative person, generative AI is narrating, helping you on the narration of story. Do you think that helps a creator also think from a different perspective, not just within his perspective, he can have diverse thoughts. So if the technology is used efficiently, so if something is suggested, recommendations are there and suggestions are there, different perspectives are shown for the same theme. So what is your take on that? Is that good or bad? Or
I think it's great. See, I don't believe that generative AI or AI in general is going to replace human beings. It's just going to make us more efficient. A simple example, and let's not get into the media generation of it. Let me just talk about ChatGPT, something as simple as ChatGPT. Now, I've used ChatGPT to draw up a contract, right? Now, if I'm not a lawyer, I don't understand legal terms, but there are times where I need to draw up a very simple contract. And I can open up ChatGPT and type in my terms and what I want the contract to essentially encapsulate. And what would otherwise possibly take me 60 minutes to do takes 30 seconds on ChatGPT to spit out a draft one. Now, am I going to use draft one and actually use that as my contract? No, I'm going to take that and then I'm going to, obviously tweak the details and so on and polish that up. But it helps me get to draft one so much faster. And that's how I look at all the other tools, whether, I remember this is exactly 1 year ago. I was working with a director on a very big visual effects heavy film. And at the time, DALI was the thing, to generate images. And he said, why do we need to, I was in the process of setting up a team of concept artists because it was a very futuristic story and so on. And so he said, why do we need concept artists? Let's just use DALI. And I'm like, are you crazy? Like, no, you can't use DALI and it's just not capable. And then within 6 months, you had Midjourney come up and it was throwing up incredible things. And I was just sitting there saying, what is going on here? And what I realized is that we shouldn't be resistant to the technology, but also not overly index on saying that, yeah, it's going to solve all our problems and we can eliminate humans from the pipeline. Something like Midjourney, for example, helps me get to that draft one really quick. And like you mentioned, it could throw up some ideas that, my concept artist had not imagined.
Yeah, coming to Murli, so as Shailendra was referring, people get confused like the new terms coming on and there is AI always and now people have gone beyond the AI and they're looking at generative AI in the media. And what is your take on how is the response from people or how they are trying to efficiently use it, or what is the first reaction when people start up? Of course, there are serious broadcasters here who, after enriching their content, they want something more. As even Anand had pointed out and Vijay pointed out that the content needs to be churned out. There is no laborious job, not wasting time, but efficient content. The enhancement of content is very important. So what is your suggestion to the media and where this is taking to?
Sure. I'll give you a simple one-line definition of AI and then the difference in generative AI, right? AI is basically a hypothesis function. So it basically predicts something, right? And typically it has been used to identify, metadata in the content, easy discoverability of the content, and, how do I get to the content that I want that I can reuse, monetize, and the likes. But what generative AI does, I mean, it's just a set of AI networks that actually produces something out. But what it typically produces is typically text, videos, audios, right? And code is another form of text that Shailendra just mentioned. So from a realm of what used to be used for discovery of content till even let's say early this year, from the advent of ChatGPT, a lot of people started believing in AI. One of the biggest issues that I saw typically with AI adoption with our customers is, all you creative guys are perfectionists, and AI is a hypothesis, right? AI will never be 100% accurate. It will never be 100% as creative as a human is. Now, having said that, with generative AI, people started, it became more consumer-oriented. People started using ChatGPT, and then the imagination started going wild. And the kind of technology leap that we have seen in 2.5, 3 quarters in this year is just humongous. And because of that, now we have started getting new use cases. We've just rolled out a use case wherein you throw in a horizontal video, and it gives you back a vertical video that typically a human would cut, right? And a human would take hours to cut, but AI can work 24/7, and it produces in the cloud. It produces this in a matter of minutes. And typically, it is 95 to 97% accurate. If you're good enough, use the 95, 97% accurate stuff. If it's not good enough, edit the remaining 3%. So, like you said, a lot of grunt work gets taken out of it. And that's the big difference that generative AI is making over what we used to call traditional AI, ML. Though the underlying technologies are very similar, because of these new transformer models, the attention architectures that have actually come in, a humongous leap has actually happened, and I'm really worried. In the next few quarters, we don't know what all we'll see.
Anant, like Vijay, people like Vijay, the end users or people who come into you and they give you all the challenges. So what is that your facility has started to use generative AI in a positive way? And what is your take on that? And how is the reaction of customers coming in like Vijay who was tasking you?
So first things first, we are operating across different segments. Film, OTT is something we started recently. But for example, in advertising as well, we produce content, right? So we have agencies who come to us with scripts, and they want treatment notes. So using Midjourney or other similar tools, we're able to create 4 or 5 different treatments and looks on the spot, which would otherwise would have taken a matte painter or someone else externally 2 or 3 days. It just makes everything much faster. So I have always treated that part of AI as a catalyst for our business. So that's one use case. Last month, or was maybe 2 months ago, when Firefly, the plugin Firefly was launched in Photoshop, and I'm sitting with my creative head, and he's like, Anant, you have to check this out. I'm like, wait, what happened? So he takes a vertical image on his iPhone, he loads it into Photoshop, he puts a command into Firefly that, populate this image. A vertical image has become a 180-degree image in a matter of 60 seconds, right? So I think it's a catalyst. The other place where I feel post-production in terms of color grading or in terms of CGI, recently one of our senior most colorists who's here, he was called in for a shoot in Nepal. Very, very challenging conditions, 12,000 feet, whatever. And the DOP who came in from the US, never worked with him previously, said that, how do I trust this guy? And, I need a certain look. So he's used some tool, he's created a look on AI, he's matched the same look with the raw footage, and we've been able to convince the director and DOP that, okay, you should work on this color grading project with us. So that's a rather simple way of using AI. So far, a couple of use case scenarios, as I mentioned, in advertising as well as the long format space. The other area where the Gadha Mazduri will come down is, rotoscopy. That's one of the big, I would say, areas where studios across the country, across the world have filled their facilities with a number of artists to cut out maths, etc. But with AI coming in, I think that unfortunately for them is going to reduce, but it will also give them the opportunity to upskill themselves into more creative, the more creative part of VFX, which might be comping or actually creating stuff, maybe 3D and CGI. So these are the areas where we've already seen in production case scenarios, AI really helping us. So for me and for my team, I keep saying to them that we should explore AI to the extent where it can be a catalyst for us, but even the client sees value in it, and you're reducing your lead time from the footage coming into your studio to when you're able to deliver it, because the industry is exploding right now in terms of content. And just kind of adding to what Vijay said. Yeah.
Thanks, Anand. So actually, overall, the response, like whatever we heard till now, I think is positive, where there is no ill feel about the generative AI taking over industry, or people need not worry about. Actually, it's increasing the efficiency of people. Rather doing laborious jobs, like rotoscopy is one area which Anand had highlighted. Definitely people used to spend ages doing that and wasting their times, where at least these people can upskill and get into a better works and churn out more content today. And Shailendra, I would like to hear what are the future technologies that you're looking on, and what are the trends you're working on currently. So brief on that.
First of all, out of all the generative AI technologies, the one area I think which still we have to continue reaping the benefits of is speech to text. Why is speech to text so important? The way I like to describe it is a lot of times, like whether it's if you're editing or doing audio work, music creation, or especially if you're dealing with asset management, you rely a lot on metadata to describe what is that content. What better metadata than the speech that actually describes what's in the video, what's happening in there? That's the semantic interpretation of what's going on. So speech to text right now, and Avid is not the only one, Adobe and other Blackmagic. Everybody is investing in speech to text first because there are so many benefits. And I believe we just touched the tip. It's the tip of the iceberg right now, what we're doing. So there's basically text-based editing. So you can actually, by extracting time code and speaker ID association, you can literally start speeding up your edits very, very quickly. You can recommend the edits very quickly. I want to connect up one other part, which I believe is fundamentally going to change things. You have to imagine that combine the power of ChatGPT, take the audio, convert it to speech, now feed that speech into the ChatGPT type of engine and ask it to give different interpretations. So at IBC this year, we were showing multiple proof of concepts, which actually just did that, which sped up an editor's job, an asset manager's job, by just saying, hey, just find the semantic meaning. That's the difference. Before it was metadata-based search, you had to find content or review things for a very long time. But now speech to text, you now send it and say, one of our product designers, he said, you know what, I have like 20 hours of content. Take the speech to text and summarize it for me. That's a huge saving already, yes. Right? And same thing, an editor, product designer, basically said, hey, find me the funny moments. Funny. Funny is relative. What you find funny may be different from the AI, yes. What finds funny. But that AI is just another assistant. It's what they thought was funny, but it gave a leg up exactly to other people's point that it's a recommendation. And finally, I'll connect up one other thing. I mentioned code generation. I am so excited about this because part of our lab at Avid, what we actually showed that both in Pro Tools and Media Composer, we can take, we just started introducing all these APIs on Pro Tools and Media Composer to drive the applications, Panel SDK, Scripting SDK. We actually taught the AI engine our code, how to code, by giving examples. And it actually generated code. So guess what happened? We talk about new people coming in, training. Well, jobs are going to change, but what's also going to happen is that the way we train has changed. What the generative AI was doing was basically taking the intent hey, how do I create a session? I want something with these many tracks, MIDI tracks, or in Media Composer, I want to create subclips and automatic edit. What it was doing behind the scene was actually generating the code and executing, not just telling you what to do. Just go in this menu item. It was literally executing it. So now you are free to express your creative intent versus learning how to learn every single piece of UI. I think this is going to be the future where the applications, the creative tools are working with are going to contain these type of commands where the application is semantically understanding you, what you want to do, and helping you.
Thank you, Shailendra. So while the technology part is mostly available and it is accessible to everyone now, and media, whatever message being conveyed, especially the broadcast media, is very powerful and it influences people in many ways. So generative AI, while the tools that you say are very exciting, and I think it's also very important for people who are creating content and presenting the content should be more responsible as well. So the overall governance part of it is very important. So because today it is very difficult to make out what is a fake video, generative AI generated video versus a original video. So the trust of the user is also very important. So in keeping that, because now everyone is able to reach out to the last mile user, the consumer. So because of the channels which are coming in, I can spin off my channel and I can generate anything and I can put on the platforms. So today, serious people who are professionals, so at least what is your take on the responsibility part of it, ethics part of this, which is actually a concern. But when it is used efficiently, I think Anant, I would like to take your views on this.
I think in the lounge earlier, Sir was mentioning about something you're working on which will detect deepfakes, for example. So I believe even the whole Hollywood strikes that have just recently concluded, a lot of the reason behind the strikes was the risk of AI for creators. So for example, voiceover artists who spent years to train their voices to either replicate an actor's voice or they've lent their voice for big films or commercials. AI tools can now pick up that tonality and they can kind of replicate any line in any kind of tonality with the same voice. So that kind of that talent is basically just brushed aside. So that's one of the concerns I see. That's just one case example. Obviously, the whole deepfake thing is very worrying, not for the creator's point of view, but for people who want to mislead, give out wrong information. Now, for example, as everyone is aware, war broke out in Israel yesterday. There's already multiple fake videos that are being put out on certain things that are happening within there, like random people putting up videos that might be 10 years old but showing it as though it is 2023. So end of the day, all this is misleading the final user. And we as final users don't have the technology or some app key, okay, we'll run this video and check whether it is fake or it's accurate, right? So these are the two areas I feel where, stealing data, stealing someone else's creation, unless and until we don't find a way to regulate it, this is going to be a risk. So this is going to be one of the main concerns that anyone in the creative industry will face moving forward. But time will tell if governments get involved to create laws that will regulate it. That's just my take. But I feel, end of the day, I just keep pushing everyone that, look, we should use it more as a catalyst, and let's not worry about what will happen later. That's my take on it. Yeah.
I think Murli, as part of a technology provider, so is it to be more transparent and to be to gain the trust of the end consumer? So there should be an option whether you can opt out of the generative AI, right? Anyone who's having their applications, it should be a responsibility that you can't just enforce your things onto the end consumer. So, and otherwise, it's going with a perspective which may be biased also. And I think the technologies which are being provided, any apps that for the end consumer should have the option of opting out. So I need not follow the generative AI and I need not go for all the content which is being predicted and suggested, recommended to me. So.
I'll just take a step back and say, look, this is a general purpose technology. AI itself is general purpose technology. Generative AI more so. So it's to give you a parallel. It is as probably as big as the internet, or as big as the app stores that came in. So there's a whole world that's actually open there, and you can use it, you can misuse it. And in that realm, I think that responsible use is very important. One of the most important things that we need to do is whenever a customer's data is used to generate generate anything else, right? So you need to make sure that it is self-contained, and generative AI engine should not learn from there. That's something that we need to protect for sure. And the second thing is you need to use it where it makes sense. It's something that pretty much like internet. Internet can be used for good things, it can be used for bad things. So we've got to use it very, very responsibly and appropriately. One of the things that many of our customers have told is that there should not be any identifiable data that actually goes to generative AI engines that are public facing, right? Because then it starts getting both biased as well as information starts getting leaked, right? And there are of course already a lot of legal petitions that are there in terms of how some of the generative engines know some of this data, which is typically not in public domain in the internet, right? So given all that, I think we've got to use this very responsibly and also consult our customers in a careful way to ensure that you get certain benefits, but at the same time you don't really end up leaking information that's not really appropriate.
So from the media, the broadcasters or be it the post-production, the filmmakers also. So if there's a disclaimer that this is using a generative AI, not a real human who's created this. So that kind of a transparency actually builds up the trust. And I think the evaluation of technology is coming so fast that it's available and accessible to everyone. So even a general, not a pro. So he'll be using it. Wrong hands may definitely lead to misuse of the technology as well. So people who are seriously using it, especially I see in the sports worlds, it's beautifully utilized, and the way how sports is experienced by the end audience is enhanced much more because of having generative AI and all. I think it's more of the responsible playing in the field who are seriously into the business, and they putting the transparency there, which I'm sure that users, the end consumers will realize that, and they'll know which is serious and which is a fake one. And can we open up to some question and answers, because we have some allied people here, all the audiences who are already using generative AI, and people who are interested to know more about it and how it is going to impact their media businesses or their part of contribution to the media industry. Anyone from the audience with a question? Yeah, I can see a gentleman here.
Since Anandan Murali has already dealt with this, I'm asking you, as of now, AI takes a lot of creativity into its own fold. So if generative AI is stealing somebody's creativity, and if he or she is not credited for that, so is it a piracy in a way? So how is it going? How are the future generative AI leaders going to address it, unless and until we have a proper AI laws? For example, European Union has already brought good laws in this regard. Unfortunately, in countries like in India, we are lagging in this. This is developing very rapidly. So unless and until we catch up so fast, a lot of creative talents will not benefit, and somebody else, some other guys will make profit out of that. So is it a fact also to be addressed? Otherwise, it will be a creative drain. Thank you.
Yeah, I think, Shailendra, you are referring to the community that's forming up, the framework that is being done. So you may actually, that is the right...
No, I think that's an excellent point right now in terms of the attribution. A lot of the technology models that are very popular right now have already been trained on some copyrighted material. But moving forward, it basically means that everybody who does generative AI models or any other AI models, they have to adopt cleared content. This is the first step. And all of this, and you do see that even this year, several people have announced those type of models. But the second part of it is we all, instead of regulations, you mentioned the European Union, perfect example. The US is coming up with similar things. There's also an NIST. They have come up with some recommendations as well. Will it become law? It's not clear. But we shouldn't really require laws because those are there to help us. We all need to accept the responsible AI positions. Just because we can does not mean we should. So there are certain, so just as an example, at Avid doing the technology development, we came up with some responsible AI positions. One of them was literally saying that it's up to us to make sure that there are commercial guarantees that all the models that we're using actually is using cleared content. And that's, so some of the speech-to-text technologies, the productization we've come up with is based on that. Another example was for our chord generation, music generation. That's one of those areas where we ourselves are training the model, not accommodating somewhere else. That where we talked about opt-in. So we again, first of all, there's an opt-in, but then there's also cleared content that we can generate on, which is free of attribution. So these are all examples of steps we ourselves can take, and I think this community, I think we all talked about responsible AI. We're all becoming conscious of this. So I think this is the way this is going to proceed. And lastly, I'll say that when regulation fails, technology does have to step in, and it's very difficult to detect deep fakes or generative AI. So the concept that's become is, rather than saying it's something fake, why not say that this is true? Right? So in the past, there were things like blockchains, but a lot of that, there's actually something called C2PA. That's a coalition that's growing right now. Avid just joined it, but there are many others, Microsoft, BBC, many other supporters of this, where we're trying to come up with some technology where we can actually say that this is true. And almost like the blockchain side of things. So people, when they're watching content, they can figure out that it's true, but not just that, attribution, because it actually starts almost like the blockchain type of principle. It can go back to where did it start and keep track of all of that history as well. These technology steps are going to really help the industry adopt the generative AI much faster.
Just an add-on. Sorry, one minute. Since you mentioned about blockchain, is there any possibility by which there will be automated sharing of profits using this blockchain technology, so that creative persons or journalists, they benefits, because AI steals all this, generative AI steals creativity as well as journalism from the other side, So there should be some technology that should automatically credit attributes as well as income to the creative or journalistic people. Thank you.
I think you just proposed the next big startup trend. So I'm not sure, but there are many institutions, like on the movie side, there have been methods of tracking where what content came from where. But right now, even without AI, it was a very difficult job. Music, especially, it was a very difficult job. I believe that, especially with technologies like the C2PA, as it becomes much more democratized, there is an opportunity there. I can't say that people are doing it right now, but this is where we need to go. People need to be able to attribute, and even with micropayments, but I haven't seen companies pop up that are ready to do that yet.
I'll just add there, there are generative AI service providers today who do not allow you to style, for example, certain stories based on people who are living today, right? Authors who are living, you cannot write it in that style. It does not allow. So there is some sort of a self-regulation also that's coming in place. One thing about generative AI is not everybody can generate a big foundational model. It costs hundreds of millions of dollars, and very, very few companies in the world can actually afford to build that. So there is some sort of a self-regulation that comes in through the responsibility of these companies, right? Along with that, there are specific custom models that we can develop where we can do that. But again, there, you are working in the realm of a legal framework, in the realm of a framework between you and your customer, where there will be some sort of self-control. The biggest risk potentially lies with consumer-facing products, where potentially anything can go in, anything can actually come out, and where there is need for a more regulation. Like I said, it's pretty much like, you can do anything on the internet, so pretty much is a similar realm that you can do various things here. Some sort of a regulation, or at least at least self-regulation to start it will probably be good to go.
I have one more thing to add to this. Most of us here, we've been part of the media industry for a long time, or our companies have been part of it for a long time. And we've always very responsibly promoted technology, whether it was the film camera, whether it was then the digital camera, whether it is AI or it is VFX, whatever. The technology that goes behind creating content, we've always promoted it very responsibly. So, I'm guessing the rest of the panel also will agree that if we're using AI to create content or to allow it to be a catalyst to create content, we will definitely ensure that the person who is looking for that content from us, we will definitely say, okay, we have used AI to a certain degree to generate this, So that is something each of us have to be responsible, okay? The same thing can also be questioned about piracy, when a pirated copy goes out, someone is being irresponsible about it, and the producer or the studio that's put millions of dollars behind that content loses all the money, right? So similarly, even where AI is concerned, yes, we should come within regulations, okay? I was in the US in August. A lot of SIMT members in the US as well were talking about that the strikes are happening and AI is one of the reasons, and they already had started working on certain policies that would ensure that the use of AI would be regulated, or if AI is being used, how it has to be mentioned out in the market that, okay, AI is being used for this. So I'm sure collectively as an industry, we will come to some kind of a consensus where it only helps the future of our business. That's what I believe.
So any other question?
Yeah, my name is Srujan. I'm from Hyderabad. So, hello. Yeah.
Yeah, little closer.
So, yeah, my name is Srujan. I'm from Hyderabad. So basically, I work with virtual production. So recently, regarding for the photogrammetry, there is an alternative called nerve fields and also 3D Gaussian splattering, which is a new technology, which is creating 3D assets just with a video using machine learning. So I want you to give me a basic understanding about it, how it is going to change total photogrammetry technology into asset management thing.
So is it, Vijay, would you like to talk on that?
Well, I don't know how it's going to change it, but I can tell you how I'd like it to change. As a user, what I would love to see, especially in the field of virtual production. Now, virtual production is a very huge area to cover, and there are, somebody who works in it, I'm sure you know that there are so many different components to virtual production. But let's take the prep side, the pre-visualization side of it. How much time does it take you to build out an environment, build out the assets in Unreal Engine and build out that environment before we can take an Unreal remote and start, a director and DOP can start playing around and blocking their shots and blocking their actors and things like that. It's a time-consuming process. And you know that that's not something that you're going to use for the final product, because obviously it's a low poly version, it's not going to be very high resolution and so on. So being able to use AI to get to that really quicker, where you can throw in keywords in terms of references, throw in some images, some videos, and then say, hey, look at all of this stuff, the information that I'm giving you, and build me an environment which makes it a starting point for your team of artists, who can then take that and start building and tweaking that to what the director and production designer might actually have in mind. So, for example, if it's going to take you 15 days to build out an environment, this could potentially crunch that to 3 or 4 days. I'd love to see things like that happen when it comes to virtual production. Just those kind of things that can enable us to get to draft one that much quicker.
Yeah, I think we are running out of our time. Thanks, panelists, for your contribution and sharing your experiences also. I think As Vijay said, and overall we can understand that it is a positive take from the session. We understand that the generative AI, though there are several tools coming up and there are much more capabilities that we are going to see in the future, overall some responsibility, people are handling it with a responsible way. It will be amazing that we can get betterment and efficiency is increased and the overall quality of experience will also increase. Mansi?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much, dear panelists, for the wonderful insights in the world of generative AI and its impact on the media industry. To end with, I would like to call upon Kavita Sharma, Senior Director, Conferences and Media, Nürnberg Messe India, to hand over the mementos to our esteemed panelists.